Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to be jumping into the 40K universe once again here with another requested video from one of my YouTube members. This is going to be from Vox on the Void, Thunder and Lightning Part 1, unofficial 40K audio, the Thunder Warriors. Links will be down below as always to the original video without my commentary interaction and to a Vox on the Void's channel. So if you enjoy this video as you go through it, be sure to go and give it a like. And if you enjoy a Vox on the Void's content on his channel, be sure to hit that sub button, show the man some love. Thunder Warriors are one of the things in the 40K universe that I have a lot of interest in. I would love to learn more about them. And just that whole time period during the Unification Wars where they're getting, Terra back together, etc. Is a time period that I'm very interested in. So I'm curious to see what this is going to be all about. So if you want to join us as I do these reactions live with my YouTube members, as I'm doing right now, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. If you've been around the channel for a while, you can take a look at those. If you decide you want to take your support to the next level, you can get early access videos, coordinate any kind of reaction requests, members only Discord channels, etc. So check all that stuff out. But with all that said, let's jump into the video here. Again, Thunder and Lightning Part 1, unofficial 40K audio, the Thunder Warriors by Vox in the Void. Boop, boop. Thunder and Lightning Part 1 by Todd Houghton.
Once, there had been oceans on Terra. Sergeant Haldrad smiles at the thought, though he finds it difficult to envision the ancient bodies of water that had once covered entire continent-sized portions of the planet. The dust seems determined to taint such imaginings. As the remnant companies of the 5th Thunder Legion roar their way across the arid surface of what had once been the bottom of a seabed, the tread...
That honestly too, like when you think about it from our perspective, like it's hard to think about the Earth with basically no ocean whatsoever. And then also like just thinking about like, how much lower, the ground would be and how much taller mountains and canyons and stuff would be. I don't know. It's strange to think about.
Threads of their prototype assault carriers throw up great clouds of fine greyish powder that adheres to everything it touches. It was the dust of the Strife Age, the ashen residue of some ancient environmental catastrophe, now disturbed from its rest and sent billowing into the sky, as the Legio Contagious ride to war. The ultrafine particles all but blind Haldrad, clogging in his nostrils and irritating the back of his throat. It is the price he pays for riding in the Thunder Child's...
Yeah, I mean, that's what it seems like. It seems like that whole time period during the Unification Wars, etc., was very Mad Max-ish, with a bunch of just roving, board lords and barbarian bands, and everyone was basically just doing whatever they could to survive.
Open command copula, his crimson horsetail helm crest streaming behind him as he waits for the vanguard of the Iron Marauders' forces to emerge from the opposing cloud churned up by their own advancing war host. Soon, Haldrad murmurs, his gauntleted hand grasping the curved piece of bleached bone hanging from a leather lanyard looped around his gorget. He had found the bone in the aftermath of his first battle as a Thunder Warrior, protruding forlornly from the blood-soaked sand in the shadow of a burning American hive city. He was certain it was the fragment of a rib, and the realization there had once been creatures roaming Terra so gigantic that one of their ribs could fit comfortably in his gen-enhanced fist had filled him with awe. He had scrimshawed one end into a tapered point, and had taken to wearing it as his personal talisman.
Well, it's also interesting too, right? That's one of the, again, the things that I find fascinating about the Thunder Warriors, right? Like, they, in a lot of ways, were more powerful than what the Astartes are. Like, they were stronger, faster, more capable in certain ways, but they were also, like, uncontrollable and wild, and a lot of their enhancements were prone to mutations and you know, other kinds of malfunctions and issues, right? So like, I don't know, that's just kind of what I find interesting about them. So yeah, like when you say that they were really like a club that was kind of meant to beat humanity into submission, that pretty much is an apt description. And it's interesting too how like the custodes, like each individual custodes is almost like a work of genetic, like they're like a work of art, like genetic manipulation masterpieces, right? But to make one is not efficient, and like literally less than a handful of people actually know the process of doing it. So yeah, it was just a situation where it was like outproduce, get as many numbers and things as possible so you could unify everything, then, you know, move on to try to create something that was more sustainable, i.e. the Astartes, right? But it is also interesting too that like they kind of in like, you know, they really kind of had to wipe the Thunder Warriors out, right? If you think about it, like on one hand, it could be seen as a betrayal because they were loyal to the Emperor, you know, in certain ways. You know, they fought for him, etc. But at the same time, right, I'm sure a lot of them probably were prone to demonic corruption, or at least were open to that because of a lot of the imperfections and mutations in their manipulation. So they kind of had to, you know, have been wiped out once their purpose was served. So they really were like a necessary evil at the time, because, you know, he really needed to unify everything as quickly as possible so that he could start the undertaking that he was looking for. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It always, like, through everything, it always really feels like the Emperor had to really rush to do a lot of things. And I, you know, that is another one of the big questions that I have in the 40K universe is, right, like, everything that he and Malkador and a lot of the, you know, people close to him worked towards, a lot of it was always like really rushed, and a lot of it was like, we don't have the time, we have to get this underway and do this and that. And like, you know, like if the Emperor hadn't returned to Terra when he did and started working on the Webway project, if he had just stayed for, you know, who knows how much longer it would have taken, 50 years, 100 years, another, you know, half a millennia or something like that, then they probably would have been able to succeed in cleaning up the galaxy and not have to, you know, have dealt with the Horus Heresy as it was. You know, I mean, who knows? You know, again, it's just what if scenarios, but maybe things would have worked out better. And so again, you know, like with the Emperor and his visions, whether, you know, even though he can't necessarily see so clearly as to exactly how things end up to where it's supposed to be, you know, is it all, again, part of a plan kind of situation, you know? Yeah, Custodians were the Emperor's perfect work, where Thunder Warriors were just the fast and dirty way. Exactly. They were literally just a tool that he needed to get the job done to unify everyone so that he could move on to the next phase of what he was wanting to work through. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, yeah, I guess so, to an extent, right? Because, like, I mean, there are definitely fates in the 40K universe that are worse than death. I mean, yeah, being enslaved by Drakari, there's definitely many ways of would rather die than that. But at the same time, right, like, the idea that your soul goes to the warp and more than likely you're just going to get eaten by some kind of demon or other creature in the warp anyway. You know, that's why one of the things that I really feel like the Emperor is working towards is trying to, I really feel like the Emperor is trying to almost carve out like a safe haven in the warp for humanity once they pass away, you know, in the material realm. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's one of the objectives he's working toward, you know. But anyway, we're getting way off tangent. Let's continue with the video here.
Unification war spread across the globe. and he had attained the rank of sergeant. He had taken to inducting new warriors into his squad by cutting the palms of their sword hands with the bone-sharpened tip, and mingling their blood with his when they swore their oaths before the banner of the Raptor and Thunderbolt. None of his men deployed into battle without first touching the bone for good luck, and despite having worn it in scores of engagements, Haldrad has never once lost or damaged it during combat.
As long as you remain unbroken, I remain unbroken,
he whispers as he holds the shard up, drawing strength from its familiar contours. It is something he has come to believe wholeheartedly, though he knew such superstitions stand in stark opposition to the reason and logic the Emperor so ardently champions. Like all his brethren, Haldrad knows his days are numbered. Yet not once since his transformation had his flesh or his reason failed him, and as countless Thunder Warriors succumbed to insanity or genetic dissolution, he had come to view his survival as being inexorably intertwined with that of the...
See, that is an interesting point in perspective from the Thunder Warriors like point of view that I hadn't really thought about till now, right? Like, as a Thunder Warrior, you probably see on a regular basis other Thunder Warriors falling to madness and needing to be put down. So I would assume that even some of the Thunder Warriors probably had some kind of realization that at some point, regardless of, you know, if they make it through and accomplish the goal that the Emperor is looking for, they're probably going to have to be put down. You know what I mean? I know this isn't official, but it's interesting to see an interpretation of Thunder Warriors and their culture right.
Talisman. In truth, he knows he is merely fortunate to possess a vigorous constitution that has better withstood the invasive gen enhancements his body has undergone. The same, however, could not be said for the men under his command.
Haldrad.
A strained, ragged voice crackles through the vox bead in the Thunder Warrior's ear, disrupting his reveries. It is Brother Heideck, impatient and battle-eager as ever.
When are we going to engage? The Auspex isn't showing Vylar shit. Do you have a visual? Patience, brother,
Haldrad says,
Brother,
knowing the blood-hungry veteran is growing more and more agitated with each passing minute.
The Marauders are coming. The dust cloud they're kicking up is blotting out Soul's light. Your chain sword will be bloodied soon enough. We shall...
The Thunder Child abruptly swerves hard to the right, causing Haldrad to instinctively clutch the grips of the pintle-mounted stormbolter he is manning. A jutting protrusion of gnarled rock is obliterated as the transport's right tread track grinds it down without slowing.
Your mother mates with pox-ridden pigs, Vylar!
He roars over the vox at the AC's designated driver, who always seemed to be seeking an excuse to avoid advancing in a straight line.
Poxy pigs are still a step above the mangy vomit-licking curs your mother seems to prefer, Sergeant.
Vylar replies with a dry chuckle.
Relax. A bit of evasive maneuvering never hurt any. Ah, there's another one.
Now the Thunder Child veers to the left, demolishing another hunk of rock with a satisfying crunch. Haldrad grits his teeth as the Thunder Warrior in the copula of the AC alongside his laughs uproariously at his discomfort and climbs back down into the Thunder Child's deployment bay, which the dust has, unsurprisingly, also managed to infiltrate. He hawks and spits upon a pitted plasteel floor discolored by old bloodstains, trying to rid his tongue of the taste, and eyes the 4 remaining Thunder Warriors of his squad. The assault carrier can comfortably accommodate 10 of the Genhans super soldiers, but none of the 5th's losses have been replenished in recent months, and Haldrad has begun to suspect this undertaking may be their last.
Any of you worthless bastards searching for a new purpose in life?
He asks his men with a grin.
It involves spending prolonged periods of time sitting behind the wheel of a heavily armored transport vehicle and driving in a relatively straight line until you make contact with the enemy. It's
relatively
a simple
straight
job,
line.
a straightforward job, but poor old Vylar can't seem to swing it anymore. Anyone interested?
Corgain, Haldrad's hard-bitten second, barks a harsh laugh, his battered gauntlets clenching about the haft of his brutal chain axe. Corgain was afflicted with a perpetual nosebleed, and his exposed mouth and chin are stained a dark crimson.
I'd sooner march the rest of the way than get stabbed in the face trying to relieve Vylar of his solemn duty. Make Heideck the new driver. With him behind the wheel, we'll hit the Marauders long before anyone else. Besides, He'll have no issue tearing Vylar limb from limb if he resists. It'd make for a fine diversion at least.
Pleased by the thought of killing something, Heidig looks about, grinning inanely, heedless of the red-tainted froth drooling out from between his metal teeth. Bors and Baral, both true-blooded brothers born to the same mother, shake their head in unison.
Heidig's mind wanders in strange places. He'll tip us all down the nearest crevasse, thinking there's a horde of mutants lurking in ambush at the bottom.
Bors.
It really sounds like these guys don't trust the person driving the tank or APC or whatever they're in. Like, okay.
Objects. He punches his brother's pauldron affectionately.
Baral will make a much better driver then. If any of you whoremasters want my job, you'll have to pry my dead hands off the wheel first.
Vylar informs them over the Thunderchild's internal speakers.
The
Now
Thunder
stop
Child.
debating before I decide to flip this oversized hunk of scrap.
Can he do that? Baral asks, looking vaguely intrigued at the prospect.
Could be. Yeah, it could be.
It'll be amusing if he actually managed it. Of course not.
Haldrad snorts.
You're far too fat. It's a marvel we're even moving at all. Now, Heidik, can you remind us what our mission objectives are, according to Captain Arcarius?
For a long moment, Heidik says nothing, as if pondering some great metaphysical puzzle. Asking the most mentally unstable warrior in his squad to relate their superior's order to his more cognitive comrades on the brink of battle was another tradition Haldrad had instigated upon rising to command. Such questions help him gauge where his most vulnerable soldier stands and how much of a liability he might be.
The Emperor's orders are to exterminate the Iron Marauder's speed cult, Sergeant.
Heidik says at last, wiping absently at the saliva coating his chin with the back of his gauntlet.
But since there's so few of us now, it's unlikely we're going to be viable as a fighting force, even if we do achieve victory. There's no support this time. No air support, no armor support, no infantry, nothing. Just ourselves and the Marauders. That's good, I think. Very good.
He does not elaborate further, and begins to rock back and forth in his restraint chair in restless anticipation for the slaughter to come.
Yes,
Haldrad agrees.
it is.
Heidig was dying, and could not be expected to show much concern about the dangers of mounting an unsupported assault against a
Sure, right? Like, you got to think the Emperor would know, right, that they would be unstable and would probably be prone to infighting. And so one of the big issues that you would have then would be obviously having to deal with keeping your own men from fighting and just killing each other and thereby losing numbers needlessly. So yeah, that is pretty interesting.
well-equipped enemy. Haldrad grips the bone talisman and holds it up.
Brothers, the Emperor's gaze has fallen upon the Iron Marauders, and he has found them wanting. Askimar and Askirus have no place in a unified Terra, nor a place in humanity's glorious future amongst the stars.
Now, I also wonder, right, like, were there any psychers amongst the Thunder Warriors? You would think not, right? Because of how unstable they would be. You would think the Emperor would not want to, like, activate that gene if, you know, if I believe, like, it's a genetic trait, right? Psychers, I believe it's a gene that they can activate or deactivate or whatever with his genetic manipulation. So I would assume with unstable super soldiers like this, you don't want them to have access to warp manipulation and accidentally just summon, you know, a battlefield full of demons or, you know, any kinds of crazy warp storms or something like that in the middle of battle. So, but it would be interesting to like gauge, I guess, power levels, right? Of like a Thunder Warrior librarian versus an Astartes one, you know? Would a Thunder Warrior psyker be more powerful or not? You know, would a librarian of an Astartes, because maybe they have more mental control, actually be more powerful? Could they even make a psyker from the Thunder Warriors because of how unstable their, you know, genetic manipulations are? I don't know. Interesting questions, but anyway, let's continue.
So he sends us to accomplish what the Imperial Army weaklings could not. This won't be like the grinding, grueling sieges we've grown accustomed to. There are no political prisoners to take.
That's what I was thinking too, right? Because back then there were a lot of warlords that were, techno-barbarian warlords that would have psychers, and they would summon, demons and have all kinds of, crazy warp battles, etc. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of that you would want them in your army, but obviously you would want them to be some kind of warp resistant.
Nor any useless guardsmen to get underfoot. This will be a proper battle, pitched in the hot dust, with strength pitted against strength. It has been said by some, there were once oceans on Terra. But when our work is done, no one will be able to say there were once iron marauders on Terra. For the Emperor, for humanity, for unity! 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 Ave Imperator! Ave Imperator!
The Thunder Warriors bellow, beating their chest plates with their armored fists and revving their idling chain weapons. Flecks of spittle fly from their lips, and their eyes roll behind their helms' reflective half-visors as Haldrad skillfully strokes their murder lust. He extends the talisman, and one by one his men touch their fingers to the ancient piece of bone, still cognitive enough to honor their commander's ad hoc good luck ritual, though they never acknowledge it as such.
Soon, brothers!
Haldrad cries, momentarily caught up in the kill fervor he had kindled.
I also wonder, right, would any, they're talking about some kind of tradition or ceremony or whatever right there with him having this talisman and all of his men kind of, touch it for luck, etc. I wonder if any traditions, ceremonies, etc. that the Astartes have are things that you could trace their lineage to from the Thunder Warriors that they had established and that kind of, were adopted, etc. That would be interesting to know.
Soon battle will be joined, and a new ocean, an ocean of blood will be! Contact!
Vylar roars in jubilation over the Vox.
Iron Marauder Outriders inbound!
The Thunder Child lunges forward like a hunting hound being let off leash. Hard rounds began spanging off the carrier's chassis. With a curse, Haldrad clambers back up into the command copula and takes control of the Stormbolter once more. Several hundred Outriders have emerged from the dust and are racing towards the advancing phalanx of Thunder Warrior assault carriers with suicidal abandon. Most of the warbikes are four-wheelers, while the two-wheelers carry additional marauders in armored sidecars. No two vehicles are alike, yet even the largest among them look diminutive in comparison to the hulking behemoths Haldrad and his brethren ride. Yet this first wave of attackers is merely the vanguard, a foretaste of the true war host. The followers of the techno-barbarian warlords Askimar and Askirus had been reported to cobble together all manner of battle engines and freakish mechanical constructs, some of which were said to utilize weaponry dating back to the Dark Age of technology, using them to terrorize refugee columns, raid trading outposts, and attack Imperial supply routes. All ambassadorial attacks.
It'd be crazy, right? Having Thunder Warriors with weaponry from the Dark Age of technology. That would be a pretty deadly combination.
Had ended in failure, and rumor had it the head of the latest dignitary had been sent back to the Emperor's regent, Malkador, completely flensed of skin and bereft of his eyes and tongue.
Yikes.
All right, brothers. Time to do what we do best.
Captain Icarius announces over the static distorted command channel.
Remember, the Emperor wants both Askimar and Askirus taken out. They are our primary targets. Everything else is a secondary objective, but considering we have this battlefield all to ourselves, we get to do this our way.
He almost sounds orcish, right? I find that almost kind of interesting. I wonder, I don't know. I'm not saying that there's any kind of connection in any kind of way, right? But it's just, it's interesting that the orcs were genetically manipulated and modified creatures from fungus by the old ones. And then obviously the Thunder Warriors are genetically modified and manipulated humans by the Emperor. And both of them have their need for battle and war and fighting and whatnot, like that instinct elevated to the max, and they sound similar. So I wonder if there is some kind of, like, I don't know, primal, I don't know. Connection isn't the right word I'm looking for, but if there's some kind of like cross genetic tampering that would like line up with both the Thunder Warriors and the Orcs. I don't know how to word what I'm thinking of. You know what I mean? That's when I normally have that connection. Now that you mention it, there's definitely a parallel. Right. So I wonder if there is some kind of like connection with that, where, you know, species that have their warrior instincts like jacked up so much and their need to fight and kill jacked up so much to have like that kind of regression of some sort. You know, I don't know, but I find that kind of interesting.
Kill the bastards, brothers. Kill them all. Show no hesitation, no mercy. Death! Death! In the Emperor's name, let none survive! Death! Death!
The 5th's lieutenants and sergeants call out in response with varying degrees of derangement.
Now, obviously, this is an unofficial video, right? This is just something that Vox and the Void made. So, like, this isn't official Warhammer canon, but I don't know. It just struck me as an interesting parallel that he's thrown in here.
Some ACs begin breaking formation, pulling ahead of their comrades as their drivers are urged to close more quickly with the enemy.
I just had an interesting thought.
Vylar voxes, sounding oddly contemplative.
Shut up and drive faster!
Haldrad orders, a surge of kill pleasure washing through him as he opens up with his Stormbolter and stitches a string of mass reactive rounds across the line of nearest outriders, blowing the marauders apart and sending their bikes pinwheeling through the air in showers of disintegrating components.
No one seems to know the Emperor's name,
Vylar says as the Thunder Child begins to accelerate, its treads pulverizing the bodies of the fallen and grinding their wrecked vehicles into scrap.
Don't you find it strange, Haldrad? I couldn't care less what the Emperor's name is!
Haldrad snaps as a bullet deflects off his right pauldron.
It's probably a dumb name like yours! Your mother probably!
I still say it's Greg, you know? It's just Greg. Something like that. Greg, Bob, you know, I mean.
Incoming!
The Thunder Child swerves violently to the right, cutting off the AC it had just outpaced. An emerald beam of condensed energy spears out of the dust from an unseen war construct and flashes past the Thunder Child. Every hair on Haldrad's body stands on end at the beam's passing, and he looks over his shoulder just as the laser connects with the front end of the Corpse Crusher, the transport coming up on the Thunder Child's right. Instead of shearing the transport in two or causing it to detonate in some spectacular fashion, the energy expands to envelop the entire vehicle, caging it in a perfectly round sphere. To Haldrad's astonishment, the Corpse Crusher floats up off the ground, as if the gravity inside had been suspended. It turns sedately, end over end, its tread spinning to no avail. Then the sphere shrinks to a point of absolute zero, imploding in the blink of an eye. The Corpse Crusher and its complement of Thunder Warriors vanish. Haldrad knows that this will likely be the defining battle of his career, whether he survives it or not.
Now that's why I always practice evasive maneuvering!
Vylar yells in triumph.
Or would you prefer I keep driving on in a perfectly straight line, Sergeant?
Haldrad finds himself grinning again.
I don't care if we hit the Marauders while turning cartwheels, Vylar. Just get us to the Bastion in one piece!
Some of the 5th's carriers had been equipped with dozer blades, others with rocket launchers and las cannons. A few have even been outfitted with side-mounted heavy flamer units. The Thunder Child, for her part, possessed no additional armaments to distinguish her, save for some extra armor plating reinforcing her forward sections. Vylar does his best with what he has been given, swerving, crushing and sidewiping the lesser Marauder vehicles in his way, while Haldrad cuts down the smaller, more agile bikers with his Stormbolter. Yet these barbarians were not the Thunder Warriors' true targets. Eyewitness accounts claimed Askimar and Askirus traveled together along with their war host in a great fortress-like edifice known as the Blood Bastion. The traumatized witnesses who had survived the Marauders' raids on their townships and encampments had wept when they recounted the massive construct's slow, implacable grind through the ranks of their warriors, and the destruction it had visited upon their homes. They told also of how the bodies of the defeated had been hung from the Blood Bastion's battlements and gun turrets in such numbers that the fortress's sides were perpetually running with vitae.
The Blood Bastion, that's just a dope name for like a fortress, you know what I mean?
Haldrad had given these reports little credence. Terror had a way of warping a witness's perspective, leading to overblown exaggerations of the threat the enemy posed. Even if the Blood Bastion is as formidable as the survivors claim, Haldrad is certain their objective is still achievable. The Iron Marauders are accustomed to waging war against other techno-clans and the common soldiery of the Imperial Army. They have yet to match themselves against the Emperor's true elite, against enhanced warriors like Heidik and Korgain, who are capable of tearing grown men to pieces with their bare hands. Laughing, glorying in unrestrained bloodshed, Haldrad swings his chain blade into the midriff of a screaming marauder, even as he blows apart the head of another with the Stormbolter, as the speed cultist hauled himself onto the Thunderchild's roof. For all the bullish aggression of the ACs, the advance is beginning to bog down. Collisions and explosions are rife. War bikes and battle buggies weave in between the Thunder Warriors' transports, allowing the more maniacal marauders to leap off and scale the larger vehicles with grenades in an attempt to breach the hulls. Even as he reduces another marauder into a red mist with a near point-blank shot, Haldrad can hear Heidik and the others bellowing down in the bay. Infuriated, he is spilling enemy blood while they are still waiting to deploy. They will start attacking one another if he keeps them confined for much longer. Yet it is vital that Vylar brings them as close to the Blood Bastion as possible. Fighting their way to the fortress on foot while facing off against mounted opponents would tax even a Thunder Warrior, though Haldrad cannot deny the challenge holds a certain appeal.
Are we there yet?
Korgain voxes, not bothering to mask his annoyance. Through the churning clouds of dust and smoke, Haldrad can make out the outline of the Blood Bastion as the Thunderchild draws nearer, the muzzle flashes of its guns and the beams of its las cannons lighting up the darkness cast by the dust. Suddenly, an eye-searing detonation illuminates the Bastion's frontal battlements and the countless mutilated corpses crucified to its armor plates. The bedlam of the battlefield is eclipsed with the tortured sounds of mangled metal giving way. Then the Marauder's fortress lists to the right and comes to a ponderous halt. The command channel crackles to life, spotty with interference.
All units, converge!
Captain Icarius's voice sounds strangely wet and strangled, as if he is speaking through a mouthful of clotted blood.
To me, brothers, we've opened up a breach. There's so much blood. Come, we must finish this. The Fifth must finish this. For the Emperor. Why is there so much blood? You cannot stop me. I will kill you. I will kill all of you.
So it's like it sounds like he got like severely wounded, but he's lost in a battle rage, so like he doesn't realize how injured he is, kind of a situation, right? Here are the Thunder Warriors. I wonder what the personal guard of the Emperor is. Oh, he had Custodes. He made Custodes before he made the Thunder Warriors, if I remember correctly. So he had Custodes at this point in time as his personal bodyguard still. I'm pretty sure the Custodes were actually his first, at least some of them, maybe not all of them, but the Custodes, I'm pretty sure were his first creations. But I could be wrong, though.
Link cuts out. Calls for confirmation and clarification go unanswered. Haldrad is about to order Vylar to make for the captain's AC coordinates when the Emerald energy beam lances out of the dust almost directly in front of them. To their right, the carrier named Belligerent Bastard vanishes from existence.
I've had enough of these cowards!
Vylar snarls. The Thunderchild picks up speed.
Leave it, brother!
Haldrad commands as he casts another marauder over the side in two pieces.
The captain requires reinforcement! Our true targets lie within the bastion! To hell with the captain!
Vylar spits.
I'm going to put this bastard down for good!
The bastard construct in question suddenly lurches out of the smoke, stomping right for the Thunderchild on a pair of backwards jointed, hydraulic-driven legs. Other ACs
Sounds like they got like a Titan almost.
have inflicted severe damage to its stabilizers, and it staggers forward like a drunkard. Yet the silvery carapace-smooth cockpit harboring the archaic implosion weapon remains untouched. Haldrad knows what Vylar is about to do, and he knows he can do nothing to stop it. A part of him is furious at his brother's insubordination, and a bigger part is just as glad of it.
Brace for impact, brothers!
He voxes as the Thunderchild passes below the construct's firing arc.
Brace and prepare to deploy!
Pulling himself out of the
gonna ram
copula,
it.
he runs to the AC's rear, bowling Marauders aside as he charges across the roof. With a powerful boost of his legs, he launches himself free of the transport. He is still in midair when Vylar rams the Thunderchild into the construct's left leg. Haldrad hits the ground rolling and comes to his feet with his bolt pistol in one hand and his chainsword still whirring in the other. The hideous scream of tortured metal rends the air for a second time. The Thunderchild's front end crumples inwards as she strikes the construct's thickly armored foot head-on. The force of the impact is too great for its damage stabilizers to withstand, and the entire limb is wrenched off at the joint. The entire construct totters uncertainly, then falls, toppling like a collapsing tower across the stricken Thunderchild. Haldrad throws himself to the side as the cockpit slams like a meteor into the ground, hurling him from his feet and momentarily deafening him. Immediately he rises, coughing dust from his lungs, his heart pounding like a tribal war drum.
Core gain report.
He snarls into the squad's shared Vox channel as he runs to the Thunderchild's rear deployment hatch.
Vylar's dead, and Heidik is about to go crazy.
Corgain replies as he struggles to disembark, growling in irritation as he pushes against the assault ramp, which will not lower fully due to the wreckage blocking it. He seems more amused than saddened.
What the hell just happened?
Vylar decided to ram a war engine instead of heeding the captain's orders,
Haldrad says as he helps his men squeeze out of the narrow opening Corgain had forced.
The rest and relaxation interval is over, brothers. We're going to be footing it from here on out. Excellent,
Bors exclaims, smiling broadly as he hefts his grenade launcher.
I was on the brink of falling asleep out of sheer boredom,
Baral says as he checks his bolter over for damage.
Is it time to kill now?
Heidik demands, his bloodshot eyes blazing as he guns his chain axe into howling life.
I need to kill now.
Haldrad laughs at the sheer insanity of it all and raises his own chain blade.
Come, brothers!
He cries as he leads his squad into the tumult of battle.
Come kill with me!
It really is interesting, like, listening to the bloodlust and how kind of like unhinged these guys were, and really like no sense of real unification, formation, battle strategy. Honestly, they basically just like throw themselves at the enemy with like reckless abandon and don't really care. Again, kind of similar to the orcs, right? So like you compare them to like the Astartes, who are definitely much more methodical, thoughtful, strategic, planned out, maybe colder in you know, their tactics, etc. I mean, obviously it depends on the legion / chapter you're talking about. Some are probably a little more wild and reckless than others, you know, like with the Blood Angels when they get their bloodlust going, you know, etc. Yeah, it's interesting. Again, going back to that kind of club analogy, it really does fit.
With a roar, Haldrad dove into cover behind an overturned war buggy, just as a lasbeam cut through the space where he'd been standing, dragging the marauder he'd been throttling along with him. Though the speed cult fields no infantry units, and the Blood Bastion has been stalled, the construct's defense guns are wreaking havoc amongst the squads of Thunder Warriors driving towards the breach opened by Captain Icarius. The battlefield is dissolved into a mess of gridlocked vehicles. Iron Marauders and Thunder Warriors clash face to face as the Thunder Warriors strive to navigate the twisted maze of wreckage surrounding their target. Exhaust fumes and the smoke of burning transports foul the dust-choked air, veiling the sky in a occulting soul behind a dark pool of pollution. Blood combined with spilled fuel has turned the dry earth into a slick mire beneath Haldrad's boots. Explosions light up the midday darkness as fuel tanks rupture and munitions cook off. Snarling, Haldrad hammers his opponent's head into the buggy's engine block until the man's skull caves in.
Jesus.
Another jumps down on him from above, wielding a serrated cleaver. only to have his chest blown open as Corgain and the rest of the squad slide into cover beside him.
It's a good thing we don't have a schedule to keep.
Corgain grunts as he slots a fresh magazine into his bolter. All the Thunder Warriors are breathing raggedly, their enhanced lungs struggling to filter the tainted air.
Any word from the captain? The Vox is beyond worthless, and no one is even attempting to coordinate our advance,
says Haldrad, unable to hide his disgust at how rapidly the situation has deteriorated.
Is every squad for itself now? Yet our objective remains unchanged.
I'm digging the like Doom music going on here in the background. It really does kind of have that almost kind of wild Doom feel of just running around, fighting and slaying and just ripping and tearing. You know what I'm saying?
We get inside the Bastion, we drag Askimar and Askirus from their miserable hiding places, and we execute them. That's what the Emperor wants, and that's what we're gonna do.
The others grunt in acknowledgement. As the fighting intensified and the Thunder Warriors slid deeper into unfettered bloodlust, it had become necessary for Haldrad to regularly focus their minds on the task at hand, reminding them again and again why they are fighting this battle, why they must keep advancing on the Blood Bastion, whether they ran, climbed, or crawled. Before the squad can break from cover, a roving group of unseated speed cultists catch sight of them and rush their position, seeking to mob them. Bellowing vile curses, the Thunder Warriors weather the storm of bullets and las, sprays of blood fanning out from the teeth of their chain blades as they rip the Marauders apart at close quarters. One man attempts to disembowel Corgain with a customized chain fist, only for the hulking Thunder Warrior to seize him by the arm and use him as a flail to bludgeon his comrades until the limb rips free of his body.
Jesus.
Blood and gore splashes against their warplate as Haldrad and the others break through and continue to advance, trampling the bodies of friend and foe as they move from cover to cover, pausing only to loot ammunition and spare blades from the corpses of their fallen brethren. Together they hack, stab, shoot, bludgeon and kick a path through the morass of men and machines, clogging their way to the Blood Bastion, joining up with other Thunder Warrior squads who have also abandoned their transports to press on towards their target on foot.
Gah! That bitch reeks!
Bors grumbles as he fires a grenade into a group of marauders, cutting apart a wounded Thunder Warrior with motorized saw blades.
Or perhaps it's just me!
Heidic howls with joy as he hews the legs from beneath a tall augmetic marauder, attempting to skewer his throat with fingers refashioned into claws of razored steel.
It's all of us, brother!
He cries as he lunges forward and tackles another cultist off his bike.
It's every Emperor-damned one of us!
It was true. They are all soiled in blood, their chain blades slathered in gore. Yet the slaughterhouse stench somehow grows more heavy and pungent as the corpse-adorned flanks of the Blood Bastion rise up before them. Haldrad's eyes go wide as he realizes the stories told by the survivors had been far from exaggerations. Blood runs, blood streams, blood flows in continuous glistening rivulets down the Bastion's sides, spreading out around the stalled construct in an ever-expanding lake of crimson.
Looks like the captain put that breacher drill to good use,
Corgain notes as they mark the gaping hole.
Yeah, I'm sure Korn is watching over this right now with great exuberance.
Bored into the Bastion's portside track skirt and wheelbase.
And the plasma cannon,
Baral adds enviously, risking a moment to admire the vast circular opening framed by molten slag that has been blasted through the thick layers of iron and plasteel. The 5th's command carriers are clustered next to the breach, the Thunder Warriors ahead of them swarming up and over their chassis to access the Bastion's exposed interior.
With me! We end this now!
Haldrad shouts eagerly as he splashes into the blood lake, and all unknowing, his men follow him into the charnel heart of hell.
Okay. Okay, well. There we have it. That was part 1 of Thunder and Lightning, unofficial Warhammer 40K audio, The Thunder Warriors by Vox and the Void. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, I mean, yeah, so far, it's basically been a story of a siege of a place called the Blood Bastion, or the Bloody Bastion, something along those lines. So yeah, it's just a battle of the Thunder Warriors, the Iron Marauders, I think. I'm I was a little confused listening to that. I think the Thunder Warriors, like platoon, squad, whatever, they were called the Iron Marauders, but they kept calling the bad guys Marauders. So I was a little like, are the bad guys called the Iron Marauders, you know, etc. But anyway, yeah, story about them essentially sieging this bastion, and it really does sound like all hell just breaks loose there. And like I said during the video, it's interesting, like how it's just interesting seeing the differences from what the Astartes were or are compared to what the Thunder Warriors were, and how the Thunder Warriors almost really seem to just throw themselves at the enemy with almost reckless abandon and let their bloodlust and, you know, genetic manipulations win the battle for them, versus, you know, the cultists that they're fighting, etc. It seems though that whoever is running this, you know, whatever warlord is in charge of this, you know, fortress they're sieging, has far superior numbers. That's what it sounds like from this battle. So yeah, and he doesn't just have like people too. He's got constructs that sound kind of like Titans, cultists. There's also other, you know, machines being thrown at him, etc. So very, very interesting. So eager to see what the second part of this is going to be. So we'll have to check that out next time. But yeah, that was again Thunder and Lightning Part 1, unofficial 40K audio, The Thunder Warriors by Vox and the Void. So links will be down below in the description as always to the original video without my commentary and reaction into the Vox and the Void channel. If you enjoyed the video of his, you know, please go over there, be sure to give it a like, and if you enjoy the content that he puts out for the 40K universe, be sure to hit that sub button on his channel and show the man some love. If you'd like to join us, as I'm doing right now, you know, doing this reaction live with my YouTube members, we'd love to have you guys come in here and add to the conversation. There is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube benefits and tiers that I offer. You can get early access to videos, priority any kind of reaction requests, etc., etc. So if any of that has any kind of interest for you, you've been around the channel for a while and decided you want to take your sport to the next level, check all that stuff out. But thank you guys for watching. Greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, you know, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and the channel grow. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate you taking the time to do so, and I hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day.